Hey, thanks everyone for joining us on KRTD News on third Friday's KRTD News show on Tuesday of the week after. Some stuff happened. We ended up doing it today anyway. So we got some great stories for you guys today. Let's go ahead and transition over to our first story. Oh, and before we go into our stories,
A late Friday.
before we go into our stories, I just want to say I'm very happy to see at 11. I had a very happy day at 11:59 last night as a New Yorker. I was very happy at 11:59 last night.
I think we all enjoyed that.
Marks the end of the reign of terror of the Governor Cuomo.
That was crazy. And he said I don't think he took full responsibility for it. He said
No, he didn't.
Shame or something that he had to do it, like it was wrong or something that he had to resign.
But he's gone.
God forbid he can leave gracefully. Yeah.
He was whining in his speech, but
Yeah.
All right, let's go into our first story. Okay.
I don't see the. All
right. Eunice, you want to go ahead and start with this?
Yeah, the New York City vaccine mandate. Let's just pin this. The New York City vaccine mandate. So I have a lot to say on this. So basically, for those of you not in the city now, in order to visit a restaurant, a gym, or really any venue in the city, you need to show your vaccine card. In order for any restaurant, gym, or venue to open, they need to mandate that. So a lot of people in New York City do have the vaccine. Here's a bit. You have to show proof in the form of your vaccine card. You can even take a picture of it, kind of like you do your ID if you want to get into a bar or something like that. And it says, just buy into it, de Blasio said, because it's going to work for all of us. It's going to make us all safer. And I feel like that's not necessarily the point, right? It might make us all safer, but the question is, at what expense? It might make us all safer, but then on the other hand, if you're forcing restaurants, gyms, venues to close down, shut down, have less customers because of this, now they're suffering. At what expense are you going to take this, right? I don't think de Blasio really cares about that. I don't think he's going to be affected by that. But there are a lot of people that, would be okay with people who didn't have a vaccine card coming in if they wore a mask. But now they can't open up their store because of this. And so it's really, in my opinion, it's way too forceful for the government to come in and say.
It absolutely is. There's the other thing. Restaurants, I've been to a restaurant before this mandate. They did a lot of a lot of the restaurants say, all right, wear your mask until you go to your table. We're going to separate off some of the tables. They have their own precautions that they've been taking in order.
Yeah, and a lot of them have, that glass or plexiglass thing in between. A lot of them have, not in New York City, a lot of them have made little balconies and little areas to eat outside, which is like technically a part of the restaurant, but you can still eat outside.
Here's the thing. The health department, of course, should monitor the restaurants like they always do. And if there seems to be a real problem, like if you have 1,000 people really close together in your restaurant or 100 people, then they need to intervene. But if you're just doing what you were doing before the mandate, I really don't see a problem.
Right. And they were struggling to begin with. I mean, they had to shut down for a long time. So they did lose business from that. And they were all really, really cooperative, and nice to what they went through to not, riot in the streets and throw a tantrum. I mean, they really stuck with it and powered with it. And now we're going ahead and we're hurting them more. And I just don't think that's right.
Absolutely. Well, restaurant workers, if you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, first they closed all restaurants, pretty much. Then they said, well, you can open at 25% capacity, which is, I don't want to be on either side of the argument because there's arguments for, at that time, there were arguments both. But here's the problem. There's a little pizza store in my neighborhood. 25% capacity for that little pizza store is two people.
Wow.
One person, two people.
Yeah.
That's not going to get them any money. Now, McDonald's and Wendy's and Burger King, they're going to be fine with their takeout business, which they had prior to the pandemic, and anybody who wants that is just going to go there for takeout.
Right.
But it's going to hurt the local pizza store.
Right. And my problem is that, like, I'm a very strong proponent of, individual liberties, and you can't go hurt someone else. Everyone has the right to life, right? You can't go, and right to property. You can't go hurt someone else. If I am at a high risk of COVID, of, getting harmed from COVID or anything like that, I can quarantine in my house. I know the dangers. I know the risks. You can't come into my house if you have COVID and infect me, right? That's my property. That's my life. You can't do that. That's illegal. But if I go outside, if I go to a restaurant and I know I'm at risk for COVID and I get COVID, that's my fault. If I go to a restaurant, I'm likely not at high risk. I'm likely just giving a restaurant business and so if somebody else there happens to have COVID, right, that shouldn't be illegal or on me or on them. The question, it was my decision to go to the restaurant, and it should be the restaurant's decision to open. If the restaurant owner wants to open, they should be allowed to open. That business was their property. They built that when they were younger or recently with their own hands, friends, family, money. I mean, that's theirs. They should be allowed, just like their house. I want these people in, or I don't want these people in.
The thing, I think that this should be, now I'm assuming that I'm assuming that there's a different way to do this. You don't have to do the vaccine cards. We weren't doing it before. We don't have to do it now. What you can do is, you need a minimum. You do need some safety. So you might be able to say, you got to separate your people in that restaurant. You can't have people all the way up against each other. You can probably say that. You can say,
like we were saying, have a check-in book. If someone does get affected and you don't want it to spread, or you want to know who's there.
Most restaurants are doing that anyway in the city. I go into the diner in the city. They have these plastic things on the tops of their booths, and it's kind of all divided. And everybody sits in all the booths, but there's like a barrier in between all the employees, which is what the city required them to do before, and they've already done it.
Right, and like you said, the people who are really being affected by this are the small businesses, right? Not the McDonald's, not the big franchises. It's the small ones that didn't have the takeout infrastructure beforehand, didn't have, are really only in-house, bodegas, little restaurants, stuff like that, were things where locals just went into, and now they had to stop, and they've really been hurt. They're not the ones with the infrastructure that the bigger companies have.
That's true.
To accommodate all of these quick changes.
And now, but the ones who have should be able to continue to maintain. All right, now you've made your updates. Now, why are you bothering me now? I just made the updates last week. Now I have all my booths and barriers. I have 3 tables that, every other table can't be used. What do you want from me now? Is the thing. They've already done 1,000 that you can't hurt the restaurant workers like this.
And the craziest thing is, it's not even like the data is coming out and saying that the New York City restaurants are the reason, people are catching COVID. I mean, there's no data to support this. It's just kind of something they're taking out of their own, back pocket and being like, we want to just mess with people almost. I mean, there's nothing to support this. And the people of New York City have really been so patient and really understanding in all of this. And I just think it's wrong what the government's taking advantage of.
Absolutely. And there's the thing, I get when they crack down on certain things, when there was especially at the height, there's a big party at a restaurant in the height of COVID, and you're going to say, don't do that. That's a little bit different than saying you can never, ever go to the restaurant unless you're vaccinated. The height of COVID, there were more restrictions at that time. I think now we're able, yes, we have the Delta variant, but we can wind down a little bit. You don't have to be as uptight as we were 4 months ago or 6 months ago. There's certain things we can start being loose upon. Like I would have had a party about 6 months ago. I actually just had a small party recently at a restaurant, and the restaurant had their own rules. This was before the mandate. They said, if anybody gets COVID, you have to let after the party, you have to let them know. So then they can do what they need to do.
Right, it's crazy.
Only have up to a certain amount of people that they approve. Like I think it was it's a bigger place. They said up to 60 people, no more, no less. They have their own rules there.
Yeah, it's saying the fine here ranges from $1,000 for the first offense, 2,000 for the second, and 5,000 for the third. I mean, for a restaurant who's been going, or any small business who's been going through a lot, that's really a lot.
There
Um,
has to be a balance between maintaining public safety and not screwing over the restaurant work.
yeah, and it's crazy too right now because a lot of the exemptions that used to kind of be a little bit more common or easier have now they've cut down on it. So religious exemptions, medical exemptions, a lot of those are harder to get now. In restaurants, in schools or wherever, if you want one, to go to work or anything like that, it's much harder to get them now. So, I mean, you're talking about people who may have a really good reason, and they're like, trying to force that on. I know my sister's pregnant, and they're trying to get her to take the vaccine. And it's so funny because I was actually just looking through, I was reading through the FEC's website the other day because, they said they approved the Pfizer vaccine for everyone above age 16. And I said, okay, interesting. Let me see kind of, the science behind it. That's my background. Let me look at it. The research that was done was only done on like 22,000 people, which is a lot, right? 16, anyone 16 or older under normal conditions. But like there wasn't any research done for pregnant people. There were no clinical trials for that, right? So they're just kind of going on the assumption. The FEC says they don't require that, which is fine. But then on the other hand, telling someone who's about to have a child, who may have a family risk of, something that is related to COVID that, could have an effect, and then making it hard in New York for them to get the exemption. And now basically saying, so they can't have an exemption, card they can take around, and they can't get a vaccination card because, they're scared for themselves and their child's life. And so there's really like what, these people can't go to restaurants now until, they give birth. I mean, it's very, very limiting in sight, right? Everyone's different. Everyone has their own situation, and you do have to accommodate for that a little bit. And it just seems very, very controlling. And not only does it hurt the actual consumer, but also hurts the small businesses.
The thing, I think you go back to the original regulation. You go back to the original, on another, you may find a little bit more restrictive than necessary, but it's a little bit better than this. I think you go back to wear a mask until you go to your table, you sign the book, and you deal with the restaurant's precautions that they were already told to put into place months ago and had to do. Because some of them already had to install different things, they had to do this. I think that's enough.
And part of it seems a little fishy. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but like everything was closed, and then Valentine's Day came around and everything was open.
Taxes.
I mean, right, but it was like, if we're supposed to be closed, and like I went out with, friends around that weekend, and it was like, if everything's closed and then Valentine's Day you open it, like, is this really a health medical crisis? Or is this something, that you guys just like tinker with and play with whenever you want?
So regardless of how we feel, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to change the rule. But let's take a look at what the rules actually are, so people will be informed. So the rules apply to everyone: customers, employees, New York City residents, commuters, and visitors alike. In a setting ranging from areas to coffee arenas such as coffee shops to yoga studios, even strip clubs are included. Okay. There are exceptions for children under 12 who are not eligible for the vaccination, and athletes, contractors, and some performers who don't live in the city. That's kind of okay. That's very
It's a little bit elitist. Just gonna put that out there.
okay. So if the quarterback from
We're gonna let him in.
yeah, exactly. Oh, the quarterback is here from the Marlins. That's cool. How's Florida? Come right in.
Yeah, wow.
No. The policy excludes church potlucks, community centers, office buildings, house parties, even if they are catered, and people docking in somewhere to pick up food. So that would be the takeout business, or use the bathroom, among other exemptions. So the takeout business is not affected by this. The mayor has laid out a fine structure for businesses caught not ensuring indoor customers vaccinated. In indoor customers are vaccinated. So it ranges from $1,000 to the first offense, 2,000 for the second, and 5,000 for the third. So this could make or break a small business.
Yeah.
So now they've been doing everything that now they have to be extra careful so they don't have to pay out at least 1,000, but a maximum of $8,000.
Yeah. Wow. No, it's, I mean, I know it's gonna happen. I can't imagine. I can't imagine it's gonna be easy. You know, I mean, it's. I really, really feel for them. I think. I don't know. I mean, I know we were talking about before that maybe De Blasio would run for governor and take over Cuomo's seat, but I mean, with what he's doing now, I just don't think he's the right person for the position, and I hope he doesn't.
No. Although, regardless of everything you do now, would be if you live in New York, everybody sees the dynamic. Unfortunately, I've seen the dynamic.
Yeah.
Blasio and Cuomo. It would be amusing at the very least to see his rival take his seat.
Oh, it would be hysterical. I mean, De Blasio
You would hate it.
were rivals. It would be hysterical if Cuomo was forced to leave and then De Blasio comes in and is like in your face, you know, like,
Oh yeah.
here we go. I think I pretty much won this match.
I mean, one of the craziest things on this is that it like the things that it excludes, right? That house parties, even though like catered house parties, those are fine, right? You can have kid and play up in your house doing whatever they want, right? But you can't, you know, like you can't have a regular restaurant, you know, like the church potluck, like the church potluck where I'm sorry, most of the COVID's probably gonna be somewhere in that area, right? Like at the churches, like, and those are fine, those are cool. Those cesspools of judgment are fine, right? Community centers, those are fine. Like, but also like the performers, contractors, and athletes, also the children under 12 who are going to the strip club. Like, why? There's such weird.
I'm pretty sure the children under 12 are not the ones going to the strip club.
Yeah, like, I mean, look, if you don't got daycare, you got to bring your kids somewhere. But you know, I just find it funny that this whole thing is you know, we're mandating this, and everyone's upset with the government anyway. So any mandate for them, they're gonna push back on right now. So I mean, it could be a mandate to, you know, eat, you know, drink sweet tea when it's real hot like that, and people would be like, no, I don't wanna, you know. But
the sad part is that you see, all you can see from this is that the government, they really don't need logic to enforce anything, right? I mean, tell me between allowing a potluck and not allowing, you know, a church potluck and not.
There's a guy in New York.
There's
a guy in New York named Louis Rossman who was during when they were putting up those like tents outside restaurants and stuff, right, near you guys, and he was just like, "What is this? They say it's outside, but there's doors. Like there's doors, and it's completely closed." Yeah. I mean, and they shut down whole streets so that you could have these like not outdoor but indoor but not, you know, like it's so, you know, and in California, you know, the real reason why this hurts everyone is because we can't afford to do the things that they want us to do right now, right? They want us to stay home. They want us to, you know, not like, but people need to work. People need to go get food. People need to go to the grocery store. People need to do all that stuff. And we're not given the, you know, allowances that we need to be able to do it, you know, the way it probably should have been done, like in every other country.
That outdoor enclave that they were building, how many small businesses are able to afford that?
Yeah.
That's true.
Barely in.
Like, absolutely.
Like
so I want to take a look at
your pop-up Korean, you know, like Korean barbecue is not going to be able to afford that. Like,
no,
they're just not going to
do
that.
To close.
The bodegas are having to give away bodega cats. They can't afford them anymore. Like, you know, quarter waters are now, you know, 75 cents. Like, how are you going to live in New York when quarter waters are 3 times as expensive? You know, you got to get your blue food groups, your red food groups over there at the bodega. But it leads me to this next story we have, which just
right before I want to
go ahead.
Take a look at the chat really quickly. There's an interesting point being put in the chat by Nightstar Productions, who is Jerry from Chicago Corner at Hard Lens, that he covers the Chicago stuff. So he says here, indoor masking mandates returned to Chicago also last Friday. And he says everywhere, but that didn't stop the city from approving thousands at Lollapalooza to collect revenue from ticket sales last month.
And all they did was like hold up their card and the guy waved them on it. Like there's videos of that where it's just like, you could have just held up your business card. Like they couldn't have, you would have been fine. Like you could have just walked in and went, yep, got it, cool. And then, you're given, and then you're shoved, like, you don't think the mosh pit is real close and, full of airborne pathogens? Like that's not going to be good for you. But, it does lead us to our these exceptions that are usually, Obama at his party this last week, right? And now, this lovely lady here, if I can bring up my presentation slide. Up,
Yeah, let's take a look.
up. And next slide here, right? Oh, not this one. We'll come back to it. But this is from Extinction Rebellion, right? Where they blocked a busy junction in their first day of their new London campaign, right? Extinction Rebellion protesters have blocked one of Covent Garden's busiest junctions on the first day of the group's latest wave of protests targeting London. At about midday on Monday, activists from the group chained themselves together to block the roundabout at Long Anchor as a van pulled up with a pink table structure. It was quickly assembled and hundreds of other activists streamed to the roundabout. Activists said the 4-meter-high structure, emblazoned with the slogan, "Come to the table," is intended to stay in place for the duration of Extinction Rebellion's planned fortnight of protest, which the group has said will target the city of London to highlight the role of high finance in the climate crisis.
Yeah, I think there's climate protests all over, but yeah, I'm happy in a way that they aren't dying down. Because of COVID, that people are still kind of getting up and fighting for what they believe in. But yeah, hope as long as hopefully it'll stay peaceful and all that.
Yeah, I think this one was already put out by the cops for the most part, which we'll see in the next couple of slides. But I did want to say that this kind of stuff, Extinction Rebellion, if they're ramping up their planned protests, good for them. But I think it's also you look at laws in Florida that we're not allowed to protest, and they're using those COVID restrictions to to kind of warp the society laws there, right? That no one's allowed to protest if COVID's around and stuff like that. And,
what is it like?
No more because in New York, it's not like that, right? Remember in New York, in the beginning of COVID, when there was the protest, you weren't allowed to go to a restaurant, but the protesters were allowed to protest in the street.
And I saw a lot of protests out there, definitely like putting on masks and stuff so that they wouldn't be talked about. Like that wasn't part of the, and it's so hard
the protesters were very responsible.
Well, they were trying to be, because the minute you aren't, right, you're accused of being, working in bad faith there, right? You're not an honest protester, right? You're just there to, turn over cars and whatever you're gonna do, right? Like that's, so you have to be super respectful and stuff, which Extinction Rebellion always does. They're always like, dead weight everything, and we're just gonna make it really annoying for you to deal with us. But so Extinction Rebellion said, as floods, fire, and famine break out around the world, it is clear that climate breakdown is here now, and there's no choice left now but to take urgent action. Everyone deserves a seat at the table to have a say how to tackle the greatest crisis of our time. Protesters remained in place throughout the day, with officers from the Metropolitan Police attempting to impose one-way cordons on the protest that allowed people to leave, but prevented any more from joining. Tristan Strange, 39, from Swindon, was chained to another activist beneath the chassis of a flatbed truck. He said, by taking these arguably drastic actions, I hope that it makes some of the passerby or the people who read about it think about why we are worried enough to do it, and it conveys that there really is something to worry about.
Here's what I like about Extinction Rebellion. What I like about Extinction Rebellion is they do things like this because they know their regular protests may not make the news. This is going to make the news if they're doing stuff like this.
Right, but I have a question, right? And I to be the realist in all this, but what exactly do they want to happen, right? They said
Right.
they hope people think about it, are worried enough to do something. Right now, right, if you would have told me this, you know, in the 70s, right, or years ago, I get it. A lot of companies, big businesses, or, you know, 10,
Right.
20,
The shift from awareness
they weren't
is
thinking
not
about this, right?
awareness isn't the problem.
Every company now is doing an environmental analysis, is doing, you know, environmental
Even Trump will write down
more
for tax
sustainable.
exemption. Trump will write down for tax exemption that he's losing golf course land due to global warming. Right? Like this is classic.
The
Like,
question is, what do they want from this? Like,
right.
what
I
are
think
they
from what I
gonna do?
read,
Do they just
from what I read in the article, it was that they were mainly focusing on awareness here,
But there is awareness.
Right. You know, I think the article also misconstrued things. I'm sure it didn't talk about everything that those protesters are saying needed to be done. But you know, a lot of them were talking about, you know, individual action, which I don't think helps right now. Right? Everyone's not drinking straws. Everyone's trying to recycle. Everyone's trying to use hybrid cars. You know, it's like our individual actions aren't enough anymore. When Monsanto and, you know, Chevron and whatever can pump thousands of gallons of, you know, emissions into the air, and we technically have no control over that because they're a private entity, you know, when all that regulation is then shoved down the road to the person at the bottom, you know, the farmer who's having to make sure his cows aren't, you know, farting too much. So that's it gets to the point where people are like, I'm tired of doing it. And here people are in the street saying, hey, we need to still do that, which they're right, but it's also, we need the entire country to be moving in the same direction, right? We have to be getting off fossil fuels, we have to be reducing our emissions to zero, and
there's only so much you can do at each point in time, at each point in our timeline, right? Farmers can't stop their cows from farting. Like, there's certain things that you have to be realistic about. We don't have the technology or capabilities at this point to make happen.
From my perspective, it's a twofold problem. Not only do you need legislation that limits, you know, big business from doing particular things, right? But, you know, especially when it comes to emissions, you do have to put sanctions on them because they have the money and power to do something about it, right? But we also have to start looking at
the farmers,
preventative measures. We also start looking at this. There was a prevention problem, right? For a long time, the climate argument was we have to prevent a problem. Well, we've spilled the milk already, right? It's no one listened to us when we said, you know, we could have fixed it, right? Now, not only do we have to like keep us from spilling more milk, which we're just pouring milk onto the floor right now, right? But we also have to be able to clean it up. Someone's gonna have to go get paper towels and, you know, wipe it up and stuff like that. Like this is, we're gonna have to get CO2 scrubbers in place and be able to cool down the planet and like close up ozone holes. And, you know, recently I just saw,
you know, I mean, that was an idea that was thrown out there. You know, trees, you know, ingest carbon dioxide.
Yeah, whales are a big deal. Apparently, they like eat more CO2 than like anything else on the planet because of how big they are, right? And the more we protect them, the more they can eat. So, like, there's a bunch of like slow processes
to begin with. So
we also have to think about storm protection and stuff like that. I know you guys just got hit with a hurricane, right? And you guys don't normally have that problem. You know, that's my neck of the woods stuff, right? And I know you guys aren't prepared for something like that. If a class 3 came into New York, that's not going to be good for you guys. You know, like, and that's a class 3, which Florida would just shrug off its shoulder, right? But we're designed for that. You know, my house is a tank of concrete and, you know, real low roof pitch, but you guys got big giant wind sails in the middle of, you know, like the ocean, pretty much. Like Manhattan's in the ocean, like it's an island, you know. Like Long Island, that's an island, like that, you know. Y'all have ocean to deal with. So, you know, this is
well, here's the thing, there's a lot we could do for the climate. There's even some idea that this was an idea that was come up with a while ago by actually by Jesse Ventura, using the Navy to help clean up some stuff on the ocean.
I mean, again, cleaning up is one thing, plastic waste and stuff like that, but we're talking about stuff on a global scale of
On a global scale, but
we're already talking about the recently I think it's the North Pole or the South Pole had like a 30-degree heat wave, right? And like ridiculous, not like it's a there was like an ozone issue or something that recently like happened there. Like another hole opened up or something like that, and anyway, not good in that department. Like scientists were like, "Oh shit, okay, well, you know, we're gonna have to deal with this now, right?" Like it's on top of that, ocean currents or ocean temperatures have rose at least 1 degree, which that's a big deal, right? I don't know if any of you watched what was it, The Day After Tomorrow? In that movie,
A lot of those stuff are dramatized, though.
absolutely. In that movie, the oceans raised 3 degrees. Like, and that was enough to cause a catastrophic, you know, event for them. Again, that was like 15 years ago. Now it's 1 degree, and we're seeing, you know, we're here in Florida. We're already on our we're in the F's on storms. It's only, you know, August. We're like maybe almost halfway into hurricane season for us. So, you know, it's past time to be able to do something about it. It's just we don't have enough power ourselves individually to do anything, you know, in my opinion, you know. So like the person who has to pay an extra $3,000 on his tractor so his catalytic converter can, you know, work properly, you know, because the emissions guy came out and looked at his farm and not, you know, Monsanto's down the road, because they can pay for it to just go away. And, you know, there's that classic, like, big business continues to get away with stuff because no one's watching them hard enough, right? But I just wanted to bring this up just to show that people are still trying to do stuff. People are still trying to get in the streets over things, and this is when people listen. You know, look, they have to deal with this. They have to expend money and power. They have to put cops in the street, you know, to deal with it. So I don't know. More of this is all I can say.
No, definitely good.
Yeah. So I also like Extinction Rebellion's plans of like I feel like, you know, if politics right now is a reality show, right? You know, making a performance out of it works. You know, if you can get out there and pop a boat on the highway and, you know, it becomes a stage for you to do what you want, well, good. You know, that kind of performative stuff is sometimes super useful in this climate because news stations eat it up. They want every bit of that, you know? So
here's the thing: CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News didn't really cover. There was there was the March for Medicare for All protest in 55 cities. They
there's
talked
one
about
right
it
now.
for 5 minutes.
There's one right now to stop the Line 3 pipeline, right? As well.
Yeah. Again,
you know, it's shut
that,
down DC. That just started.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they ignore protests, even if it's in 55 cities. Oh well, we really didn't see that.
Which is what we're here for. You know,
yeah,
us
exactly. How do you
independent
miss
stations.
that?
Us independent stations on YouTube, where, you know, obviously they're trying to get control of YouTube so that, you know, we're less of a problem for them. But, you know, it's people are covering this stuff, and it's hard for it to go away. You know, and the more people that are involved, the harder it is for it to go away.
Consumers, the average worker is also watching more independent media than you know.
Yep. And you're already starting to see wildcat strikes increase. You're starting to see people start organizing for general strikes already, right? You know, you look at the rest of the world when they have these mandates and when they have these things come up, France gets in the streets. You know, that's what they do. They go and fill up a tanker full of animal feces, spray it at the, you know, Parliament building. So, you know, like that, these are things that they're willing to do. You know, the French classically built guillotines at one point, you know? So this is the thing that if the politicians aren't afraid that they're not going to have a job, you know, they're not going to do anything for it. So
Now, you know, you should here's the thing, why don't, and I think you meant this, if you were in Congress, you know, you give out little guillotines to the politicians and have them keep that on their desk. to remind them of what happened in France.
Absolutely. Little inflatable ones, I'm very much down for. You know, putting a little guillotine
for
pin
everybody.
instead of that, flag one. Because, that's where we got our ideas from. So, but it does lead to this, this thing of that, these protests and even riots, Martin Luther King talked about riots are the language of the unheard, right? People are the most unheard that they've ever been right now. And they're told that we have to stay inside and do all this stuff, but Miss Nancy Pelosi, right, is able to have her, lovely, shindig here, modeled after, the Get Out films. Looks like to me, this is some antebellum stuff right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's got sweet tea out on the table, and they're gonna pull out cornbread from the back, like.
So I mean,
absolutely.
Not
well, here's the thing.
As a person, like, it's just, I mean, what she says and what she does, what she says she stands for, and then who she is in her private life and what she does is just they're at 180 degrees from each other. They're completely entirely different. And I don't know how she still gets elected. I mean, she's so hard to even trust as a person, or I mean, I don't believe she stands for anything she says she stands for.
She really doesn't. And those are all of her donor friends. And she's got to give them a party.
Like, what does she stand for? Nothing other than what those people at that table ask her to stand for. Right?
Exactly. One thing, I hate doing this because I'm very against good, like, identifying people, based on the their ethnicity or whatever. But I did notice how, she's always talking about diversity and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, there's no.
And it just, you see the video, I know you can see this picture now, but if you see the video of the picture.
Yep, we have it coming up.
Of one. And I hate saying that, you need people from different ethnicities. You don't, I think whoever shows up, everyone's the same, whoever shows up, whoever wants to come, fine. But the fact that she always talks about how, diversity, and we need more diversity in America. Well, look at your party, look at your fundraiser. I mean, why does everyone look the same, right? Like, why does it look like there are only white people there? I really.
Well, here's the thing. These are a bunch of white millionaires and billionaires who showed up to a fundraiser.
Millionaires too. I've been to fundraisers with them.
There are, but these are her donors. She has her own donors. These are the guys who keep her in power in Congress. So whatever they want her to do. Everybody wonders why everybody is so afraid of her in Congress. It's because she can raise millions of dollars without even blinking an eye by doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, so mask-pushing House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was apparently caught addressing an outdoor crowd of maskless Democratic bigwigs in COVID-19.
You're still on the same slide.
Am I? It says it switched. I switched. So Democratic bigwigs in COVID-19 riddled Napa Valley over the weekend, according to video and tweets. All the servants were fully masked, tweeted journalist Glenn Greenwald. The almost entirely old, white, rich crowd of DCCC donors free to go maskless as they're served. According to the CDC, Napa County is a coronavirus hotspot, garnering the designation of high for its current level of transmission. High is the most worrisome designation.
This is what I want to see protested, right? I mean, first of all, the word servants, it seems a little bit dramatic, but like, this is what I want to see protested, right? The Democrats, and there's so many Democrats I know that are opposed to this and are like, no, I mean, Nancy, aside from who she is, just the way the party is two-faced and the way they say something and then don't do it is ridiculous. But I want to see this protested. I want to see people come out, and not protest only what the Democratic Party lets them protest and agrees with, but protest, things that aren't right. And I think that will give third parties, and, Democrats or if Republicans do that, but, I mean, now we're just talking about, someone who's a Democrat, but I think that would give third parties more power and, instead of just talking, kind of and having the meetings and stuff, protesting things like that and making a scene out of it and saying, no, if you want to vote on the Democratic line, you need to speak to us, stand for what you say. You say you stand for us, but you don't.
Here's the thing, none of the politicians actually do that. Oh, and then the ones who say that they're different, like we had that entire group. On the left we had the Justice Democrats, and on the right we had the Tea Party. After a few years, both of them were completely integrated with their parties. It didn't take very long. They made a bunch of noise. The Tea Party arguably got more done than the Justice Democrats did, but they all made a lot of noise, and then they quieted down and joined the establishment of the party.
But
Well,
Bernie Sanders, right?
Go ahead.
Like there are some people that haven't. It's possible not to.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I think
Bernie
I think
hasn't
this
done
speak.
anything recently either.
Yeah, I mean,
Bernie,
for sure.
Bernie Bernie has changed the minds of so many Americans
Yeah.
with regard to
That's
politics.
true.
I don't
Absolutely.
agree with his policies, but I am in awe of what he did.
Well, and
I
I think even us, the people who he changed, look at him and look at how he's not doing the things he would normally have stood up for, and we're kind of now stuck without a leader, and we've learned through that like we shouldn't just hero worship and stuff, and we're gonna have to do it ourselves if we're gonna do it at all. Like there's definitely lessons we've learned from that guy for sure. I mean, I think this speaks to a much bigger. This
so
speaks
much.
to this speaks to the much bigger problem in politics of, for one,
Mhm.
politicians not, being close to their constituents at all, being so far removed from that. They're such on an elitist level from mainly being part of the wealthy class, right? Let alone the educated wealthy class, right? But I mean, all of them make multiple figures
Well,
at this point.
exactly. And here's the thing. Did you see how? And here's the other thing we look at. Bernie surrendered almost very quickly in the 2020 election when it looked like when New York was coming up, he had a lot of dedicated volunteers in New York, including myself, who was ready to phone bank for him, and who was giving him a lot of money, a lot of his little dollars. He surrendered right before New York.
But between this event, Obama's super fun party that he got to go to,
Oh yeah,
right? And all the wait staff have to put on masks, and all of them have to do everything, and it's again, this leads back to it's individual action. You're supposed to do it, but we can do whatever we want. We're fine.
White House, right? New York City,
Yeah.
you need to go to the restaurant to be vaccinated. Oh, but not the athletes and the celebrities. And you need to be vaccinated everywhere. But the White House doesn't need to be vaccinated, right? Any hospital you work in, you need to be vaccinated. Any employer, or pretty much everything now. Any university, but if you work in the White House, if you're a senator or congressman, you don't need to be vaccinated. I mean, it's all this elitist game that they think is okay to play, and they're getting away with it.
well,
Right.
here's
Well,
the
let me
thing. These are her
play the-
bosses. This is Nancy Pelosi meeting with her bosses. This is literally what this is.
Yep. And here's the video of her doing it.
Wonderful. Let's take a look.
Question was asked this morning by Ambassador Solomon about young people and how we're reaching out to young people in the Olympics. Well, young people, we always ask them, how do you want to be reached out to? And one of the main responses.
I mean, how many people do you think are there?
And there's packed, like, I mean, they're pretty close together.
Well, there's a lot of tables.
There's no 6-foot distancing.
There's no COVID precautions in any of that. I mean, that's a
No.
regular.
Look, apparently, if you drink enough $200 bottle champagne, right?
You're immune.
You're immune. Yeah. So, it's nuts to me. Like this is
disgusting.
It's such a slap in the face. Like this is the thing that I don't understand recently. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Obama would have been adept enough to not do dumb optic things like this. Like somebody would have told him the optics looked bad on this if you do that, right? And it's like, where did all those people go? Like what happened?
It's like they don't care what the constituents think anymore.
Yeah, they've forgotten how to lie good, and now they just do it out in the open, right?
But
Like
it's like they don't care. They're not even putting in the effort to cover it up. They just don't care about what people think anymore.
No, do you remember Nancy Pelosi had to get her haircut?
You like it or not?
Yeah, the haircut. That was during like the height of like COVID restrictions. Nancy's getting in there, getting her bob touched up. and like,
And I think that she got that Harris place in trouble. I think that they got in trouble with the state or something after she went there.
I mean, God forbid she went in to go get a perm. That would have taken way longer. You know, like, to me, it's this. They don't have to follow the same rules as us. We're stuck at the bottom doing what we have to get by, and they get to, play
And
tea
it's like
party.
so high up that they're untouchable. That's the disgusting part about it. They
Yeah.
don't even care to fight any of this. They're like, we're untouchable. You can't stop us. It doesn't matter if all of you see this, if this video goes on YouTube, if we're all packed like sardines and 100 or a couple hundred people are here. We
Right.
don't care. We're untouchable.
And then on
Like,
top of
that's-
that, if this was an RNC convention, you don't think the news would have been on it?
Oh,
in a
and they would
heartbeat?
be all over it. Oh, Nancy Pelosi would be all over it.
Right.
She'd be talking about it, talking down on it.
Right.
And now she can't.
Yeah.
She
and
still
now
would.
She still
If
will.
RNC goes out, she still would talk about it like it was disgusting.
She's like, well, mine was in a backyard,
And then
because
everyone
mine
was
was in a
vaccinated,
yard.
and everyone was vaccinated,
And I have
and this and that, and it's like, well, prove that to me. One, I want a full.
Look at her $1 million.
full list.
Look at that picture. Look at her $1 million gazebo right there in the picture.
It's not
I don't know
even.
if you saw
It's like, it's like we have. I don't know how hot has it been in California for the last like literal wildfires in the last like months, right? In Portland and California, it's just been burning the entire. So it's hot there. You've got staff in 3-piece suits and a mask, right? When everyone else is in like summer clothes and like,
Well,
linen,
they're the servants.
sundresses and stuff everywhere. Like, it's hot. People don't, but the wait staff, they're the ones in the mask having to like,
It's a little
bust
degrading.
their ass. Yeah.
When basically what they're telling you is your risk, right? The guy in the picture, he might be vaccinated.
Yeah.
But and while he's looking at hundreds of people all next to each other, and the message is the people next to us, all of our friends or strangers, whoever these people are, we trust them, they're safe, they're clean, you're dirty, right? Even if you have the vaccine just like everyone else.
Yeah.
Right? It's degrading, it's disgusting.
Yeah, well, and it's also the fact of the vaccine is not going to stop you spreading. It might not even stop you getting it. It might stop you from dying from it, right? But you can still transmit. You can still have it come to you. You can still, and that's the thing that people aren't understanding either. They think once they get vaxxed, they're good. Now they're talking about booster shots and stuff like this on top of that, right? On top of all these other variants that your vaccine, quote unquote, is not going to help you with.
There's the Delta and there's the Beta.
We're at the we're going to be at Zeta next week, and and it's going to be because of these people, right? And there's this constant push from business and whatever to get things back up and running and get workers back into their slave cubicle and like that, like for what? So that we can catch COVID and make money so that we can have insurance to be able to not get COVID. And, it's such a, like, it's ridiculous to me that people can look at this and it's on both sides of the aisle. Both of us look at this and go, this is dumb, and it's terrible optics. How did no one say, hey, maybe not,
I'd like to know what she's saying with that microphone, honestly. That's what I'd like to.
I mean, good morning, Sunday morning.
I
got all the legislation in last night. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, this is she's gonna sit at this table and some, military executive and some oil lobbyist and whatever is all there to, eat their pork chop and, give them like, oh, well, what are you going to give me this week? And like
then you get the guy who's like, I brought a list of stuff I need you to get done next week.
Yeah, pretty
can
much.
You get these into bills, please?
Right. And she, there are people offering her jobs if she wants to, if she ever needs to retire, you can come be on a board here or, all that stuff. It's all part of this game. And, I think it was Fiorella who said the next time they do this, we should crash this party. Like, let's show up and, so
it would be awesome.
I mean, yeah, and that's from the left, but
that would be really
it's from the left that no one gets to see because YouTube suppresses it and whatever. You know, you were talking about you'd love to see Democrats protest this stuff. Yeah, we're trying. You know, we're trying to do that stuff, and we're the ones that are getting, you know, put in the back of a police van or, you know, shot with rubber bullets or whatever for doing this kind of stuff, right? I'd more than willing to be in front of Nancy Pelosi's house for a week, for 2 weeks, you know, like, you know, there was people who brought that horse head to her door, and that was a little much, but
there's a reason, you know, they're untouchable. There is a reason,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah,
not completely.
Well, here's the thing. People did protest outside. A lot of my friends in New York went to protest Chuck Schumer's house.
Yeah.
And
Look, this is gonna
they actually didn't care.
This
They
kind
got
of
a
thing
slap
is
on the
going to
wrist
take
for it, though.
prolonged protesting. You have to hurt people's wallets. You have to hurt people's, like, if they can't get to work, they call into their boss, they complain, right? There's a lot of stuff that you can do to just be a nuisance, but you have to have the right demands, and you have to be able to hold out long enough, and you have to be able to deal with whatever they're immediately going to throw things at you, and you're going to have to figure out a way within the lines to be able to, you know, make a stink about this kind of stuff. And but again, what could you change?
Let's go on to the next story because I do have an appointment.
Absolutely. Let's go to the next story.
That's the
U.S. evacuates 48,000 from Afghanistan as Taliban calls August 31st withdrawal deadline a red line.
Okay, so can I say something about this? Because I know you guys have been talking about the Afghanistan and Taliban a little bit, and I don't know everything that was discussed, but I think there's a lot of misconception. You know, I mean, I hear a lot of people blaming Biden for this, and, you know, 20 years and, you know, trillions of dollars gone down the drain. Taliban's always been an issue, right? I mean, we had 9/11, right? Osama bin Laden was involved in that. Taliban was hiding him, right?
And where did they come from?
And here's my question. Where did we find Osama bin Laden? We found him in Pakistan.
Well, so here's
Not
to talk about this, you have to go through a long history of stuff in the Middle East, right? You have to go. Go ahead.
But when we're looking at now, right? Like Trump and Biden both wanted our troops out.
Yep.
Trump decided to take the initiative to make a deal with the Taliban, saying that we'll take our troops out, and you guys basically all you have to do is sign a paper. People were very against it at the time, but Trump said at the time, well, if they don't listen to their side of things, we're going to come in and use force in a war, right? Biden had the same initiative, and that's why Biden's very quiet now. Biden also wanted the troops out, just like Trump did. But Biden didn't have that force part to it, where Trump said, if you guys, you know, react incorrectly, or if you guys start war, we're going to come after you. Like,
here's the other thing is, he broke the agreement that Trump made. So we had a previous agreement. He's like, well, I've decided I'm going to be changing the date. But you guys still have to hold up to your end of the bargain, even though I'm changing the date.
Right, but Biden never rewrote that agreement that Trump.
No, he just arbitrarily said, I'm changing the date.
Changed it. He could have, right? I mean, he could have changed it if he didn't approve of what, you know, Trump had done. But they both wanted our troops out. They both wanted to be the president to end the war. You know, but
here's what I you know, you look at the history of this entire conflict in the Middle East. You know, we're the cause of the Taliban. We're the cause of ISIS. We've made every problem in the Middle East for ourselves, right? On top of that, no one, when I talk to real people, no one wants to be there. Everyone wants out. And here the issue is that now that they're seeing,
the reason we went in there was because they were bothering us, right? They knocked down our twin towers, killing thousands of people.
Actually, that was
okay. So
the
here's
Saudis.
my question. So,
the Saudis were part and parcel with that, which we're cool with them. We're, you know, even though they had a big hand to play in that, you know, they literally funded that attack, right? Even though Obama made sure you couldn't sue them over it. You know, he made that class action lawsuit go away, right? And now we're talking about where
risk, at least, you know, from what I've seen from like our national securities,
right?
You know,
we're not. Let's be honest here. We are not in Afghanistan because we're not in Iraq. We're not in Afghanistan because they attacked us. That is not why we're there. We already did that mission, and we're done with that revenge mission. We're now there for the resources. We're there for oil, lithium.
I don't think it was revenge. I think it was more
That's what they
safety.
claim.
the world.
Revenge,
I mean,
safety, whatever it was. I mean, even then we knew
Well,
it
here's
wasn't
the
for
other
that.
thing is, we went into Iraq and they had zero to
They
do
had
with
zero
9/11.
to do with it. You know, that was the weapons of mass destruction stuff. Now
And it
Obama
turned out
took
to be
those two
non-true.
wars. Obama took those 2 wars and made them 7 wars by adding Yemen and Syria and whatever at the behest of Saudi Arabia and, you know, AIPAC, right? Both of those 2 things wanting us to come in, and we're constantly trying to proxy war with Russia over here and this. You know, we've been doing this for since my lifetime, we've been doing, right? And now that we're getting out, we're seeing the consequences of conflict and war, and that's what people are upset over. Is like,
So
look,
here's
we
the other
learned
thing.
this from Saigon.
Yeah.
This is almost exactly, they brought the exact same helicopter to get people out. There was the exact same problem when we got out of Vietnam, right? It's like we
Here's
haven't
my
learned
thing.
any of our lessons.
The other thing, though, is the intelligence community, when Biden went to, they told him there were 90 days until the fall of, I was going to say Saigon, until the fall of Kabul. And then it was 3 days. And then we were pretty much up.
Me and
because it
Joe
was so
Evans made
disorganized.
the joke. Like, when this was happening, me and Joe Evans made the joke that this was like Saigon.
It is.
Right? Well, we didn't see that they brought the exact same helicopter. Like, they literally have pictures that are almost identical from Saigon. Like, we made the joke that it was very similar, right? Not, you know, it hadn't happened yet, you know, and then it happened, and me and Joe were like, oh yeah. I mean, Joe was stationed there, you know, like, Joe knows what's been going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see, you know, if like a security threat comes and, you know, something happens to us, or, you know, there's another 9/11, or, you know, there's a bombing or a war coming out. But
Sure.
I mean, as a and as you know, a lot of other you know, democracies or semi-democracies across the world, we do try to maintain democracy and have a hand in other countries, right? We try to help people in Africa, right? When it's helping, right? And we also do other things, but when it's helping, we do, right? We all do have.
Has the United States military actually helped?
Well, here's the other thing. We also
Hold on. We all do have to agree that the Taliban, at least for the woman in Afghanistan, is not a good thing, right?
Neither are us. We aren't good for their women either. We've killed their hospitals. We've bombed their schools. We've been just as terrible as the Taliban in some regards. In fact, our women over there, our women, our soldiers, our female soldiers have been getting raped over there in Afghanistan by the United States military, by members of the service, and we do nothing. We do nothing for them.
I'm not saying we're not perfect, but when there's an entire group against giving women rights, right? I feel like that is something that
I'm Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia also has a problem with this. Dubai also has a problem with this, right? They have human trafficking issues over there, yet we do nothing, right? There's plenty of times where the United States military decides to not try to be the world police, you know? So,
but I think we do. Either the question is, right, we stay back and say, you know, we're just America and we'll fight when you come to our territory, or we'll say, like in Obama, we're saying, you know, this is one.
I don't think the United States military is needed to help that. I don't.
Well, here, let me ask
if
you.
You wanted if you wanted to send humanitarian aid over there, that's one thing. If you wanted to put financial sanctions on the region, right, so that, you know, you're slowly cutting off their leads and whatever till they have to come to the table, that's one thing, right? But we've had our bases there and our militaries there, causing our own problems there for the last 40 years at this point. You know?
Okay, yeah, I mean,
here's my question. What was the goals when we went into Afghanistan? The goals were get Osama bin Laden. We got him in Pakistan. And the other goal was deal with Al-Qaeda, which numbers in less than 100 right now.
Right. You know,
we're
there for we're there for the resources. We're there for
the
lithium and the minerals and the oil.
And then the other thing
that's why Blackwater's there. Blackwater's not there on behest of the U.S. military. They're there on behest of companies that want resources, and they're defending oil pipelines.
Eunice, let's go for the example. Let's say we stay in Afghanistan. Who are we back? Are we going to back the warlords who have child sex slaves, which we've been doing? Are we going to back the unpopular government who fled and their 300,000 soldiers surrendered immediately, or we're going to back the Taliban? Who actually can we back there that makes sense?
I mean, I think there's a problem keeping our military there. I mean, it seems like both, presidents didn't want that, right? And they had more intelligence than we had. Although, what's his name?
The intelligence was flawed. They didn't know how long it was going to take for Kabul.
Right. And the intelligence from our DoD did say, Department of Defense did say that, war would break out if we just pulled out. But I think there is something that has to be done, right? Having an unstable group that we know has attacked us before doesn't seem the safest, right? That doesn't mean necessarily leaving our military there.
Here's the thing, though. They're the government, whether we like it or not now. We can go in there, but only way if you want to go in there, you need 1.5 million troops to completely pacify the area. And I don't think anybody's going to support that initiative.
We've also eyed for an eye and then some. Like with what they've done to us, we've done twice, 3 times. Like we're the invaders in their country. If you look at it from their perspective, we're the ones there occupying. We're the ones there killing their brothers and sisters. It's easy for them, especially when you tie religion to it, it's easy for them to go, oh, America's the people who dropped a predator drone on my brother's house. Like that's why there's such an easy
media. I think a lot of that is skewed media.
I mean, how could it not be? How could you, if you were in that same position and, your brothers, especially if you're male over there, right? And your brother is killed by, because he's involved in this. Like it's a circular argument. I'm not saying that they should be doing that. I'm saying that that's what's been happening.
When it comes to these type of stories, right? Who to trust and who not to trust, what to trust and what not to trust.
For sure.
I do know the stories that the Middle East puts out from Israel, right? Where they say that, Israel's bombing this person and that person. I have a lot of friends pretty high up in the Israeli military, and Israel will send out warnings telling them, leave your schools. We are going to bomb this place, right? If they think that they're
but then they're also claimed of war crimes by outside tribunals, right?
Israel just bombed the whole school. But you built your nuclear reactor or, your nuclear weapon arsenal in a school, and we told you to evacuate and you didn't. So a lot of it, when it says, America.
Where are they supposed to go? They've got nowhere else to go. They're there. Like this is the thing with all of this. Have you ever watched? Have you ever heard of manufacturing? You ever heard of manufacturing consent? You ever heard of that phrase? Manufacturing consent. That's what's been going on, especially with Israel. Like this is the thing that I find with Israel. To me, is very similar in how it interacts with us as Saudi Arabia. Right? It gives us something, and we give them military backing in return. Right? That's they're under the opinion that to some degree, sure, right? But it does make it a pay-for-play model, and all it does is continue to reinforce our major economy of death, right? Where we're...
What do you like the relationship to be? I mean, a relationship just based on trust?
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like the relationship between those two, it's a hypocritical relationship, right? When both of those countries do some pretty terrible things, Israel included. Right? Israel has now become what they fear most in some respects. An oppressive, group that controls an entire region of people just based off where they're at and what their, religion is. And, there's a lot of that stuff.
Okay, that's debatable, right?
I mean, it's not. There's plenty of other places that would agree with me, but
right, there are people that
I get it's close to home, right? I get that's, look, our friends are also just as involved in that and are able to see through it, and it's tough for them. If they mention those thoughts to their parents or their, they go to temple on Saturday and they can't talk about that stuff. They can't do any of that. This is part of the thing.
I can go talk about it. I can go to a synagogue and say exactly what you said, and I'd be fine.
Sure.
Is like I have a problem when people say it with not a lot of background or understanding of what they're talking about, right?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know how long you've been learning the Middle Eastern politics, right? For me, we learn it since we're a little kid.
Yep. Same thing here.
Right? A number of times. It's a little bit different. I have friends in the military. It's a little bit different when other people just come in and try to, say things they hear from the media.
Well, part of the problem is that, Israel, everyone's in the military in Israel. You have to be, right? This is...
No, but I mean like higher up in the military. I don't mean like,
sure. But I'm saying that
know,
military in general, going through those military courses, teach you an us versus them mentality already. It's part of the Americans do the same thing. All the British people talk about it the same way. That you're in the Cub Scouts, they start teaching you it's civilians versus you. Like it's this classic, like who is the enemy to the Israeli people?
yeah.
It's these
I
people.
think at the end of the day, with the Taliban and Israel and whatever it is, we need to come up with we need to decide
Right.
what's our dynamic, what do we want to accomplish overseas, right?
Sure.
And I think each party and each president has their own thing, and sometimes that gets in the way.
Trump masks off a lot of that. He goes, no, we're there for the resources. We want the resources, and he doesn't sugarcoat it. And people at least listen to that and go, oh, well, maybe we do need the resources. Like what Democrats try to do is attach identity politics, and they try to manufacture consent by saying, oh, these women, we care about them so much. Oh, these particularly
right, like
religious oppressed.
Right. This is
right.
We care.
Now, here's the thing. What should we be focused on now? What I think we need to focus on now is finishing our if we're going to be evacuated, which it seems like is what we're going to be doing, we need to finish that and be done with it, and not be taking 10 years to do it, because we just sent in 7,000. We have the airport now. We can start taking the Afghani interpreters with us, who would work with us. Would be in great danger if we left them there with the Taliban. Even though they gave them blanket amnesty, the way the Taliban functions is the national Taliban doesn't control the regional Taliban. So the national guys just said, you guys have amnesty. But the guys in your region may not care what the national guys just said and might try to kill you. So you need to get them out of there so they're not in danger.
I also feel like you should have been getting them out of there from the minute you knew about this plan. You should have been getting people out on visas at like normal. Like, don't act like anything's the problem. Just don't panic and start getting the people out you need to get out, and leave only the essentials.
Like, did you not think this was going to happen? That you had a plan to get these?
I mean, Force Recon and the SEAL should be the last people there. They're the ones that are going to hold the line for you so that you can get everyone out. And if you had been doing this from the get-go, actually getting people out instead of just waiting for the last minute until Kabul's taken. I know probably a lot of that was happening, but it just seems like the whole thing has been mismanaged. And to me, it seems like a lot of manufacturing consent of we're gonna mess this up so badly, right? That we're gonna have to send our parents in to do the home. It's like, I'm gonna do my homework so poorly that my parents are gonna feel bad for me and do my homework for me.
Here's the thing is,
we're gonna have to go back in to fix the problem.
Yeah. We also thought we had 90 days. The intelligence community said 90 days, but the other thing is, we put up 2 paper tigers. We put up a paper tiger of a president who nobody actually supported in Afghanistan, and we put up the paper tiger of the military with 300,000 soldiers who had no intention of fighting.
But
how
I did want to.
It so poorly. I mean, it's we thought we had more time. I mean, how can we mistaken this so poorly?
Because the intelligence community, I believe, actually lied to the president. I honestly think
probably
they have their own reasons.
There's probably plenty of reasons. I mean, bad intel. You're waterboarding a guy for 4 hours, and he tells you that we're not going to Kabul, and how that's what's probably going on too. But we're not the saints over there, so we're doing our own shit. But I did want to respect your time, Yehudis. I know you had to head out.
Thank you. Yeah.
But we went over a little bit, but we're good.
No, it's all right. It's good. I enjoyed it. My wisdom has been hurting.
I'll tell people to go to @Yehudis for New York on Twitter and go follow you if they want to see more of your stuff. But
yes, and thank you guys. Yeah.
Yep.
And we'll start doing the third Thursdays again. Fridays
on
again.
Fridays. Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
Also, everyone, check out Joe Firestone has a big announcement tonight on his channel, and later tonight at 7:00 Eastern, I'll be interviewing Johnny Johnny from the Combo Couch. So everybody tune in for that.
On the 1s and 2s. All right. Let me get my ending card set up.
Thanks, guys.
2. All right. Let me pull you two off the air. Goodbye, everyone. Make sure to hit like and subscribe.